Shakira accessible to boars. That just seems so weird. I just imagine she has a ring of bodyguards designed to stop like humans, let alone pigs. But no, they got to her. They got her bag, they took it away. Now she apparently eventually recovered it, but it was destroyed at that point. And this isn't just a problem for Shakira. Wild boars are a big problem in Spain, where police received more than 1,100 complaints about them in just 2016. They attack dogs, they run into cars on the road. In Italy, by the way, because it's not a problem just in Spain, a pack was recorded stalking a woman carrying her groceries. She eventually dropped the bags, surrendering them to the animals that immediately pounced on them. That's personally what I would do. They probably just wanted your food, throw it on the ground. Italy estimates that there are 2 million wild boars in the country. And I just want to ask for some balance in the world. We've got like 1 armload of koalas left, and we've got boars out the wazoo. So many that you can find video in Rome. There are thousands of wild roaming boars in the streets of Rome harassing old women. I wanted to play a video, but it's from the AP, so we can't. And meanwhile, we got like 3 koalas left. The world can be very frustrating. So anyway, some animals are doing quite well, even getting FaceTime with Shakira, but others not so much. And meanwhile, in Serbia, Havana syndrome has struck again. Yes, the CIA has evacuated an intelligence officer from Serbia who is suffering from symptoms associated with so-called Havana syndrome, as more cases of this mysterious neurological attack continue to affect American spies and diplomats. And they say that this incident in the Balkans, which hadn't previously been reported, happened within recent weeks and continues a quote, troubling uptick in attacks. And I would just like to say to the New York Times, why are you phrasing it that way? A troubling uptick in attacks. You're saying it's an attack. We don't know that it's an attack. It's a syndrome. It's a thing the CIA is saying. It could be an attack, but it has not been established to be an attack. And they are the arbiters of what is true and objective, are simply claiming, no, they were attacked by something. And I would ask the New York Times, what? I mean, some people think it's a microwave weapon, directed energy, lasers, or something like that. Which is it? You're saying it's an attack, so you must know at this point. But no, they're just playing into what amounts to effectively unsubstantiated US propaganda about this so far. But let me give you more details. About a week ago, a CIA agent fell ill with suspected Havana syndrome while on a work trip to India, with CIA Director William Burns and another agent experiencing the same symptoms about a month ago in Vietnam. So you've got Havana, you've got India, you've got Vietnam, you've got Serbia. It's all over the place. So what's common to it? Well, all of the unidentified officers reported the same symptoms: headaches, pain, nausea, vertigo brought on by sounds, pressure, or heat. And there are as many attempted explanations for what this is as there are incidents of it. Some theorize that the symptoms are caused inadvertently by surveillance equipment. It couldn't be with the CIA, couldn't be that. Others are saying it's a mysterious sonic weapon. It's one or the other, equally likely. And the thing that bothers me is we have just sort of accepted, yes, it is some kind of attack that is happening everywhere around the world. By who? Nobody seems to know. Nobody has a theory, but they are taking it seriously. The House unanimously passed a bill last week authorizing additional support for US officials who have been affected by this supposedly. The New York Times is accepting the argument. The Department of Defense wants people to report if they feel anything. And I'm not saying that this couldn't be an attack or that nothing is happening to these people, but we should be very cautious of just accepting what the CIA is saying about this, especially when it's as vague and as unsupported as it currently is. Anyway, unfortunately, that is all the time we have for Meanwhile In. Thank you everyone who joined Bridget and me for this show. Reminder, the tier 3 member live Q&A is gonna be taking place in about 35 minutes. So there's still time to become a tier 3 member if you wanna take part in that. Otherwise, I look forward to speaking to you all. And Indisputable's coming up with Dr. Rashad Ritchie and Rayyvana. So get ready for a bunch of Rayyvana coming up after this. But until then, stay safe out there, stay sane out there, and I'll see you soon.
Yeah, welcome. Indisputable. I'm your host, Rashad Richard. Good to be with you. We have a lot of show today. In the bullpen will be Joshua Shin, commentator, Young Voices. And Joshua wants to talk about cancel culture. Should be an interesting debate / discussion. Also, breaking down news of the day, we have Rayyvana, host of Reactions on Twitch. That's twitch.tv/TYT. Big ups to all of the Twitch people. Top story for today. Dope dealing cops. Yeah. Let me show you a picture of Tweedledee and Tweedledum. 2 Columbus police narcotics officers who worked in the division's cartel unit were arrested Tuesday by FBI agents and charged with selling fentanyl and cocaine. They were prolific drug dealers. The officers, John J. Kochkowski, 33 years of age, and Marco Marino, 44 years of age, were arrested on the basis of a criminal complaint unsealed Wednesday in the US District Court in Columbus. According to court records, both of these cops were suspected of being involved in the sale and distribution of about 7.5 kilograms of fentanyl. Marino is also suspected of taking bribes to help protect transportations of cocaine, according to court documents. So remember, they are supposed to be undercover cops catching drug dealers. And they are in fact drug dealers themselves and engaged not only in drug dealing, but protection, transportation, as well as taking bribes. Okay, this is all part of the unsealed documentation. The Columbus police chief, her name is Elaine Bryant, said in a statement that both officers have been relieved of duty. Now, I want to pause on that just for a moment. They have been fired. They have been relieved of duty. I thought this couldn't happen. Now, how many times have we seen a cop shoot an unarmed person in the back, especially black and brown bodies? And even though it's clear exactly what they did, even though everyone can obviously see this cop committed a crime, they're not fired immediately. No. They have due process to be fired. Well, I guarantee you this, if you kill somebody at your job today, and don't think about doing it, I promise if that happens, you will be fired. But for police, if they kill someone, shoot somebody in the back, they're not fired. But these cops were fired, proving the fact that it does happen. They were fired immediately when this broke. Okay, so the chief says they've been relieved of duty pending the outcome of the case. This alleged conduct does not reflect the values of this division or the excellent work being done by its employees. I will say it again, when my officers do what's right, I will always have their back. When they don't, they will be held accountable. Well, I hate to break this to you, chief, but your statement is incorrect. This does reflect the values of your department. They are part of your department. They were senior at your department and they were given a position of significant public trust. You cannot separate yourself from the activity of those who are an expression of your agency. According to an affidavit filed in support of the charges, Marino is believed to have promised law enforcement protection to a confidential informant. He was trying to recruit to traffic drugs with him, including promising to intervene if other agencies tried to investigate the informant. Now, I want to remind you, a confidential informant is someone who informs the police on illegal activity. How stupid can you be? Now, obviously what they're doing is wrong and criminal and corrupt, but literally the stupidity of recruiting someone whose actual job is to inform law enforcement of illegal activity is just beyond me. The court documents allege that one of the cops accepted $44,000 in cash, protecting shipments of at least 27 kilograms of cocaine. However, The transports were not actually cocaine. It was part of a sting set up by the FBI. That's according to the records. His partner, accused of being available over police radio to make any calls that was needed, including to other members of law enforcement. I'm gonna go out on a limb here. I don't think it stops with these two. I'm just going to put that out there. If they can guarantee police protection, think about it. If they can guarantee police protection, then it does not stop just with them. Rayyvana, what are your thoughts?
I mean, I couldn't agree with you more. These are two officers, and it's good to see justice in this case, seeing them get fired and to be prosecuted. But again, these are just two officers. I mean, I can only imagine how many hundreds, if not thousands more officers are doing the exact same thing and getting away with it. And in the form of justice, this is a small victory, because real justice will look like systemic reform to the policing institution in this country, as well as solving the opioid crisis that has been killing Americans, just countless Americans for too long now, and no one's being held accountable there.
Exactly, very well said. Let me shift gears. There's a Trump supporting pastor who has been arrested, okay? He's a real MAGA pastor. Let me go to the video.
Just spread your feet apart. That's out. Okay, place your hands behind your back, away from your back. No, behind your back, behind your back, away. No, stand up, stand up. Stand up. Stand up. Sir, can you stand up? Like that. All right. Stand behind your back. What happened?
This Trump evangelical was arrested for violating Canada's COVID-19 protection protocol. Let me say this. I did not know Canada got down like this. Canada put out a warrant for this man because of his violation of their COVID protection protocol. He then went to the United States. He did this tour spreading misinformation, lying, going on Fox News, the safe haven for all things false. So this Canadian MAGA pastor, his name is Arthur Pawlowski, was arrested on the tarmac of Calgary International Airport as he returned home after spreading lies about COVID-19 in the US over the course of 4 months. Now, how in the hell are you a pastor of a whole church? And you got warrants for your arrest. You're not at your job for 4 months. You in another country talking trash about COVID. How are you taking care of the flock, preacher man? Well, here's what preacher man was doing. We got some photos. Let's put those photos up. Yeah, look at them. Look at that. Wow. I think somebody's in love. Okay, so this controversial conservative preacher was taken into custody on Monday afternoon. He was charged with contempt of court and an alleged violation that occurred on June 5th. He was well aware of the violation. His lawyer, Sarah Miller, told Global News that she didn't have any information about the incident. Well, I wonder, did she have information about this incident when he had the warrants and he decided, hey, let me pop up on Fox News with multiple warrants for his arrest. The pastor was arrested in May along with his brother, who is organizing and promoting illegal gatherings all over Canada. They arranged church services that did not follow a mask protocol or social distancing rules. Both of them were found guilty of contempt in June after disregarding COVID-19 mandates. Hey, listen, say what you want to say about the Canadians, damn it. They are going to protect their country and their fellow citizens as much as they can. So they are enforcing the rule here. Alberta Health Services asked during a sentencing hearing earlier in September that Mr. Pawlowski be sent to prison for 21 days and that his brother be jailed for 10 days. The court was also asked to fine this conservative preacher $2,000 and exact $15,000 in cost. The ruling will take place at some point next month. October 13th is the expected date. Wow. What are your thoughts here?
You know, I'm in law school and they taught us in law school. I'm sure you were taught this in law school too, Dr. Richey, that you don't get to break laws just because you disagree with them. They apply to everyone, whether you think that they're heinous or not. And in this case, those laws are not heinous. Those laws are in place to protect the Canadian public. They're good laws. He just chose to disregard them and put his congregation at risk of COVID. Clearly, he doesn't care much about them and only about himself. And the punishment for him to be making such a big deal out of it is relatively small. 21 days in jail, like a $15,000 fine. I know he's making money on those Fox News appearances. He's got money to pay that. So just ridiculous. But I'm glad that they arrested him.
Yeah, and it sets an example. It creates a standard. Infractions are only as powerful as enforcement. And when you have these rules on the books, right? But you have no enforcement behind them, those rules, those ordinances, those protocols matter not. So you have to connect the infraction to the enforcement. And that's what Canada has decided to do. Let me take you to a very sad situation in Massachusetts. High school football team ended because of racism. A majority white team playing against black players. According to the report, these white players were calling the black students the N-word, called their coach the N-word. It ended in a fight. The head coach for the Roxbury Prep High School Wolves, Willie McGinnis, let's put up a picture of Mr. McGinnis, said that a fight between his team and the Georgetown Middle School Royals took place because of racial slurs. He said that's it. And they tried to work through it. They tried to be champions. They tried to hold their head up, be the bigger person. McGinnis, 32, said the problem started just before halftime when one of his players told him an opponent had called him the N-word twice. Now remember, we're dealing with kids, okay? McGinnis, who also serves as the school's dean of students, said he reported the incident to the head referee and one of his assistants. What do you think they did? Do you think they did something? Not a damn thing. The ref promised to speak to the Royals, but McGinnis said he's not sure. The seriousness of the situation took hold. As McGinnis players first reported being insulted with racist slurs, the coach said he told them during halftime to respond using our pads. In the second half of the game, McGinnis says more of his students told him that Royals players were calling them racial slurs and comparing them to apes and monkeys. It has now escalated. Allegedly, fans of the Royals also moved in behind their bench, attempting to interact with his players. When one of the assistant coaches told the fans, move back, McGinnis says the coach was called the N-word. Parents of Roxbury Wolves players attempted to form a line between the players on the bench and the crowd. Wow. In the third quarter, a fight broke out between both teams on the field. When the coach and other coaches, Coach McGinnis and other coaches rushed to break it up, he says he heard a Royals player say the N-word. He allowed the game to continue for a while, but the alleged harassment from the opposing team continued, so he decided to pull his team out. As the Wolves headed toward the locker room, the head coach said he heard chants of the N-word. The Roxbury Prep Wolves were escorted out of town by Georgetown police. There are also reports that the black cheerleaders were harassed the same way as well, being called the N-word. Now, here's what should have happened, okay? As soon as this was reported, that ref should have disqualified that team and given the victory to Coach McGinnis and his squad. Done. Go home. You lose, they win, go. And we'll write this up because now there's a penalty for the institution. None of that happened. None of it happened. They allowed these children to be called the N-word, these cheerleaders to be called the N-word, and then that team, these high school students, along with those in attendance, chanted the N-word as they left the game. Can you blame them only for their behavior? Look at what parents are doing at school board meetings. Look at what they're doing supporting people like Donald Trump and others who are known to protect white supremacy. So why would they not mimic adult behavior? Sister, what are your thoughts here?
I mean, yeah, I think that something that's important to keep in mind is that racism is not innate, it's learned behavior. Right. You have these, young kids who are saying racial slurs, but then you gotta look at the stands. Who are the fans also saying racial slurs and yelling abuse at these players? It's probably their parents, their relatives, adults from the school, like behaving in this way. And it's a system that allows this behavior to continue. It's the ref who didn't put a stop to it when he first learned of it. It's the coach that seemingly doesn't care that his players are using this type of language. And it's of course, the parents and the fans who are participating in it as well and just allowing it to continue. Yeah. It's just a horrible, disgusting situation, and you really can't put any blame on the players who are receiving this abuse for reasonably getting frustrated.
Yeah, exactly. All right, we got more on the other side. It's indisputable. Stick and stay.
I went to Kentucky Fried Chicken when I had first got my license, like 17 years old or 17, 18, whatever it was. And I'm driving, I think my dad's Oldsmobile, and I parked it in a place where there was two cars next to me, really tight spot, and a car behind me. I don't even know how I got in there because I'm a terrible driver. Back then I was an even worse driver. And on the roads I'm okay, but in parking spots I have terrible spatial reasoning and I'm a mess. And on my way out, I hit all three cars at once. I broke all records, okay? So I went, as I'm backing out, I went boom, oh and this side hit that car, this side hit this car, and the back hit the third car, okay? And I got stuck. I didn't know how to get out. Like, I went, okay, for this, and then I'm like, no, and then, right? And then finally I had to stop, go inside the KFC and go, I'm sorry, I hit a bunch of your cars. They're like, what do you mean a bunch of your cars? I'm like, I don't know.
Wow, there's a B?
Yeah, I'm like this, I hit 3 cars, I don't know. So you guys gotta come help me, okay? Okay, so one, my bad, really sorry about that. Okay, number 2, can someone take my car out? Because I don't wanna keep hitting your cars and I'm incapable of taking it out of this spot.
Now baby, move that fat, baby, move that fat.
Hi, I'm Brett Ehrlich with breaking news with Brett Ehrlich. This is breaking news with Brett Ehrlich. Hi, Brett Ehrlich here. According to EPA head Scott Pruitt, climate change is not happening. He cited a meme on Facebook he saw. When pressed to back up this source, he said it must be accurate because the watermark said it was made by a scientist. So, your move, Truth.
Do all of you know the Young Turks?
An outlet like yourself that are willing to cover this story from the very beginning and that weren't afraid to say, hey, this is something that is legitimate.
And this is why what Cenk and the Young Turks are doing is so important.
Brent Welder is very progressive Democrat. He's a just Democrat. In fact, uncorrupted, not going to take big corporate PAC money. When did you start watching this show and when did you become a member?
So I've been watching for 10 years, an active viewer, but also more importantly, getting out there with causes like Wolfpack.
By the end of our campaign, we had organized about 22,000 individual contributions with an average about $27 a piece. And those initial people were a lot of TYT supporters as well.
In looking at the world in a very different way than corporate media does.
It takes those early people who believe that can really be the seeds of this movement, and that has been the Young Turks.
Thank you, Cenk Uygur of the Young Turks.
thank you to TYT and all the progressives around the country that have our backs.
You know, the first and only interviews that we had tonight to do with the Young Turks as well, because you guys have been here from the very beginning, and that's what this night is all about.
And I thank Cenk very much for the very good work that he does.
Thank you so much. We're all in this together, and the people are so powerful, and we're gonna get it done.
Thank you for your constant support.
It's a pleasure to be with rebels. I like that.
For all of the help that you've given to the Just Democrats, to Wolfpack, to help fellow progressives. Thank you guys to all the Young Turks members that make it possible.
Hey, this is Edwin. Most of you might recognize me, well, not me, mostly my laugh from the main show.
I mean, it's gonna be hard to get the Uyghur maneuver on him.
And today, my talent is Rubik's Cubes. You gotta forgive me, it's been at least 5 years since I competed. So that's why I'm actually going pretty slow. Watch this.
All right, good to be with you. Welcome back to Indisputable. We got a lot of your comments. Let me read some updates, okay? We now, in addition to the I wish a Karen would tease, we won't stop tease, we now got a mug, okay? Yes, front and back. You know how we do it. Take care of yourself, take care of each other, take care of the planet, and remember the truth is always indisputable. You take that anywhere you go, all right? Guaranteed to remind you of what's important. You can get that at shoptyt.com, all right? Make it happen. Also, I was nominated because of how wonderful you all are. I was nominated for Best TV Anchor, Atlanta Magazine. You can vote, okay? Wow, that's a dope graphic. I did not see that graphic before the show. Really cool. Real simple to do. If this show impacts you, vote Best of Atlanta 2021, Atlanta Magazine's Best of Series. Real simple. All you got to do is go to tyt.com/Rashad. tyt.com/Rashad. You can vote once a day. Voting stops October 11th, okay? Shop tyt.com, type in Rashad Richey, tyt.com/Rashad, then type in Rashad Richey in the bar, all right? It's real simple. I appreciate you making that happen. We can win this together, okay? Also, don't forget, members get an all new Power Hour with Senator Nina Turner. That's tonight, right after the Young Turks. Tune in starting at 8 p.m. Eastern time, 5 p.m. Pacific time. If you're not a member, you need to sign up. Real simple, tyt.com/join, all right? Also, today is International Podcast Day. International Podcast Day, and you know what you can do on International Podcast Day? You can listen to the Bullpen, all right? You can listen to the Bullpen and a bunch of others. Okay. Acast, wherever you get your podcast from. Let's read some of the comments. TYT member Eric the Red, You wonder how many drugs were seized by police only to be sold by police. Don't think this happened in a silo. Mickey C, the silver-haired dragon, pastor arrested at his jet. LOL. We have to stop being atheists. Being a pastor is much more profitable. It really is, actually. I mean, those cats make bank. Jambo Gino, using racial slurs should be considered unsportsmanlike conduct. That's right. Also, the fact that the white team is the Royals is an extra sting. Yeah. Derek, just read white fragility. I know, late. To me, it read, just read white fragility. I know, late. To me, it read like an instruction book on how racism is taught. Children give direction. Children are given direct instruction how to respond to the threat of being labeled racist. I'm sure all those people who say they weren't racist and that they were just defending their children who are just acting like kids, right? YouTube super chat, Jeffrey Richie Dragon. None of those Royals should have any NBA aspirations. I can tell you that. Well, you're right, yeah. But I watched on Fox News, Ricardo Chucky, but I watched on Fox News that America is not racist. So what is it? Right, exactly. What do you call it then? The Truth Dragon, NJ09. Utter the N-word ends in that hard R, and you get the H word, these hands. King T, great mugs, Doc. I got mine ordered as we speak, 100. Look at that, already on top of it. Good stuff. Twitch, Mike Boy Raps. Dr. Richie, did you see the thread I tweeted at you a couple of days ago? It was about LAPD's retaliatory arrest of a prominent police critic. They accused him of making terrorist threats, and a whole community showed up to pay his $50,000 bail. They have also sent a SWAT team to another police critic's house 3 times, 2 times in the last week. Do me a favor, sometimes I miss things on social media if you tag me, because I got a lot of tags happening. Just email me at richie316@gmail. RICHEY316@gmail.com, okay? And we'll make that connection happen. All right, it's Thursday, Throwback Karen. I wish a Karen would.
You wanna call the police on them for having a barbecue on a Sunday.
You're still free, back off! I'm gonna tell them there's an African-American man threatening my life. You shut your mouth.
You shut your mouth. You just assaulted 2 people and then called the police.
Because they're bloody, I've called them. Come and get Strathfield to get these ugly little.
So they're gonna get them off the seats and you're gonna get charged with assault. That's
assault,
really
yeah. What have I touched?
Yeah, you actually touched me. The whole train's looking at you.
Yeah, that's great. I can video too. I can do that too.
You don't need video when there's a train.
I can do that too. He's too lazy. He can only get a. He can't even get a regular girlfriend. It's so sad. He's gonna get a.
What did you talk about?
I talk
this here, all right?
What I talk about you? What I talk about you? What I talk about you? No.
You're scum. Holy shit.
What I talk about you? I tell you, naughty boy. You're very naughty boy. We go back China. We go back China. We take up. We have strict visa. What's wrong with Hong Kong? Why did you come to this country? This is our country.
Honestly, shut the.
You shut the.
I'm fine, thank you very much.
Can't you get an Aussie girlfriend? You have to get a. You're sad, poor pathetic man.
I'm actually married and
yes,
I'm not
that little, is it? Is it really that small? You can't get an Aussie girl. You poor man. Happens to the best of you.
Does it?
Yeah, I think it does.
Wonderful.
Yeah. This is great. Oh, look at this here. He's got a. Look at it. Look at it.
You're
look at
amazing.
It. Oh my God, isn't it sad? He can't get a regular girl. He's got to get an Asian. That's because I can't get anyone else. And she probably thinks he's rich.
Just because I cannot get a seat.
I cannot get a seat.
You can have my seat.
I cannot get a seat. I cannot get a seat.
If you watch that and it does not emotionally impact you, you should analyze what you have been indoctrinated to believe. This is an international Karen. We have seen Karenicity globally. I am thankful that there were anti-Karens around this overtly racist individual spewing anti-Asian hate. This video was posted by Kareem Abdul, who writes that it was recorded at peak hour during the school holidays. He began recording when Karen became aggressive toward children who refused to give up their seat, okay, for her, right? Now, if I'm on a train, if I'm on a subway, I always give up my seat to first, those who are senior citizens, and second, those who are ladies, okay? I always do that, that's just me, all right? This woman did not deserve a damn seat, period, okay? The passenger has been identified as Sue Wilkins, 55 years of age. She had no excuse for her offensive attack, and she was embarrassed by the footage uploaded online. "It's not nice what I did to that lady," Wilkins said. "It wasn't nice to say that to her because it's not nice when people say that to me. They call me white trash and fatso. I know how it hurts, and I shouldn't be saying it to other people." Listen, typical Karen move here, okay? Not even advanced level stuff. She, in the apology, must make herself the victim of the story. So no, it's not just her. It's also about when I was victimized. Thoughts?
I mean, that video is just so hard to watch. But first, I want to say, how dare she, a white woman living in Australia, living on stolen land, tell anyone else they don't have a right to be in that country? Everyone else has just as much right as you to be living on that stolen land, which is, relatively little. But at the end of the day, her to say, I know what it felt like because people call me white trash and people call me fatso. No one is upset that you weren't being nice. People are upset that you were being racist. And when someone calls you white trash or fatso, that does not carry with it the weight of the racism that you levied against this poor woman who was minding her own business as you imitated her accent and just spewed racial slurs at her. It is not just not being nice, it's being entitled, it's white privilege, and it's just disgusting racism.
Yeah, 100%. And we will continue to highlight these Karens from around the world because Karens are dangerous. All right, one of the saddest stories you will hear. There's a young man, Dontrell Stephens. Some of you may remember this story. He was shot and paralyzed by the police. He actually won a $22 million settlement, but died before he could see a penny because of political maneuvering behind the scenes. Let me bring this to your attention. Let's put up a picture of this deceased young brother. The police did that to him, okay? They put him in that wheelchair. On September 13th, 2013, Dontrell Stephens left his home to take a routine bicycle ride through his West Palm Beach, Florida community. The then 20-year-old man was pulled over by Palm Beach County Sheriff's deputy named Adam Lynn for a bicycle infraction, riding your bicycle while black. Lynn got out of his patrol car and within 4 seconds shot at Mr. Stephens, who had stepped off his bike with his cell phone in his right hand. Stephens complied, but the officer said, Stephens' cell phone was a gun, and shot at him 4 times, hitting him once, severing his spinal cord and leaving him paralyzed. Stephens was completely unarmed. He was just riding his bicycle. And within seconds of that cop encounter, was shot and his life changed forever. Quality of life changed forever, okay? Let's put up a screenshot here. All right, that's the guy. He's the one who did it. For the next 3 years, Mr. Stephens fought for his life in federal court. A jury eventually awarded him $22.4 million. That was a settlement, as Stephens believed his life was changing for the better. He deserved the money, and without it, he couldn't afford to pay his hospital bills, therapy bills, as his health continued to deteriorate. Attorneys for Officer Lynn filed an appeal, here they go, in the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals throughout the guilty verdict and ordered a new trial for Officer Lynn. This meant Stephens would get no money and have to start his fight with the courts all over again. So here's what happened. Here comes Ron damn DeSantis, okay? June of 2020, Governor Ron DeSantis of Florida signed a $6 million settlement for Stephens. It miraculously passed the Republican-controlled legislature, despite the Palm Beach County Sheriff Rick Bradshaw admittedly being against paying Stephens. Sheriff Bradshaw thought of Stephens as a drug dealer, even though there was no evidence of any of this, who didn't deserve anything. During the vote for the settlement, police tried to show photos of Stephens holding money and drugs on his social media account. They also brought up his 2 cocaine possession charges where he sold drugs to an undercover officer, had nothing to do with this situation. Despite the efforts to discredit Stephens, he was ultimately awarded $4.5 million in a trust fund and $1.5 million towards outstanding unpaid medical bills, a far cry from the 22+ million he won in federal court. Dontrell Stephens was finally victorious, right? Nope. It took a serious toll on his body, medical bills getting out of control. Stephens, who never walked again, died a year after Governor DeSantis approved that low-rate settlement. He was 28 years of age, nearly homeless. He was also a father figure to his brothers, who will now have to raise themselves. He did not see a dime, not a penny. He died homeless, basically, okay? This is why people are so adversarial in their sentiment toward the system of politics, the judicial system. This young man, we should have been fighting to make sure he got justice here. He was not selling drugs. He was not involved in criminal activity. The cop admitted he made a mistake. The young man had a cell phone and not a gun. But they still tried to crucify him and his credibility on social media, previous encounters with law enforcement. This is how diabolical they are. Sister, what are your thoughts here?
I mean, first I want to say rest in power to Dontrell Stephens. Just what a horrible, horrible situation he never should have had to be in the first place. And there's this doc, but maybe a lot of people out there don't. There's a concept in the law called making someone whole. The settlement payment is meant to make someone whole. It's meant to be justice. But what would justice have really been? Not to have been shot in the first place, not to have to go through, fighting in the courts and all this, like his body deteriorating because of this. So what justice really looks like is systemic reform to save lives, and so that people don't have to fight these tough legal battles in the future.
Well said. We got more on the other side. It's indisputable, stick and stay.
You're about to watch some behind the scenes footage of the Young Turks. Ooh. Now these are partial videos. If you want to get all of them, you become a member, go to tyt.com/join, and you'll get all the behind the scenes of me, Anna, John, JR, a little bit reality show like. tyt.com/join and enjoy this.
You know what you're seeing behind me? Jersey, hold. Watch me flip this camera. However I flip it. Do I flip it like this? No, I just took a picture. I'm bitzing right now.
What?
Behind the scenes.
Oh, okay. For members? I don't have my face on.
She doesn't have her face on, folks. Oh, that's JR's ass right there.
You can't take 5 minutes off, can you?
No, I can't, Johnny Pie. I said it was live stream, but I was lying. It's not a live stream. It's just for members. Bitsy, this is my cat. You know what his name is? Kiki Cat.
Animals are innocent.
Control room and the insanity is obviously there.
Right now, as you can see, I'm directing or tech directing.
I'm so happy to be here.
This is what like a Labor Day beard looks like for Jank. Man, you're a Young Turks viewer if you recognize me like this.
the one person in my life I would love to meet.
What's going on, guys? This is a Bitsy or a BTS or behind the scenes with Hassan Piker, aka Woke Bay.
Oh, hi, I didn't see you there.
I have finished my show, The Damage Report, and now I get into a really awkward time of the day.
When I'm sitting, the control room is right there. So I can see Bart.
This is the Pittsburgh office, by the way. Referred to often as the boiler room.
You see how it's ripped? Is it super unprofessional to wear that at a business meeting? Or am I like cool, rebel?
I just finished doing the power panel and I'm fired up.
What do you do for TYT?
Not a whole lot.
If you're frantically tweeting at us that something's broken, thank you, because I'm fixing it.
And thank you for being a TYT member.
Super last thing, because there's always got to be a super last thing. Oh, that was disastrous. This has been behind the scenes, behind the scenes.
Welcome to Indisputable. I'm your host, Dr. Rashad Richard. We got a lot happening today. But what do we do on this show? We tell the truth. You know why we tell the truth? Because the truth is simply indisputable.
Rashad, great to be here. Congratulations on the new show. And I gotta let everybody know that Rashad and I go way back.
Here's the pattern that we see in all of these Karen stories. They think they own stuff they do not own. Now, where does that come from? I don't know, maybe slavery. Maybe they think they should still own black people.
This is what happens when Karens weaponize the police.
When you're used to privilege, equality seems like oppression.
It hits you in a certain way when someone is holding you against your will, treating you like you're a criminal and you're an innocent person. This is something that black people face no matter where they are.
A stronger black economy lends itself to a stronger, greater economy. Don't think it's exclusive of you, it's inclusive of you.
What's your beef with critical race theory?
It adds more fuel to the fire of the racist tendencies that we already have.
We have a generation of problem solvers that can remedy the problem if they are properly taught what the problem is.
You know who created redlining in this country? The white liberal.
I don't give a damn who created it. If it's a racist policy, Shelley, here's what I don't know. I don't know. See, there you go filibustering, brother. You're scared of this truth, but you're gonna get it, though.
Climate is changing fundamentally, extremely, and non-linearly. It's becoming worse now. It's not when the levees burst that is the problem. It's in the anticipation of that.
So I hope every human being is safe. And by human beings, I do not include multinational corporations, especially the ones that started climate change in the first place.
What we're currently doing right now in cutting emissions is clearly not enough. There will be ramifications to what Trump is doing. I don't want people to suffer, but I feel like there's gonna be a lot of suffering because we have an imbecile as our leader.
Welcome back, it's Indisputable. Don't forget, right after, all right? Right after Indisputable, y'all really get a double dose. Not a Karen double dose. She's an anti-Karen, by the way. Reactions with Rayyvana, 4 p.m. Eastern time, 1 p.m. Pacific time. That is a Twitch exclusive, a remarkable show by a brilliant individual. Twitch.tv/TYT. Let me read some of these comments. TYT member Texton says, the editors need to make Dr. Richie a clip of the Neo Matrix dodge move for when Karens pull out the victim card. It happens so much. You know, that gives us good consideration. You may be right, we need something like that. Bernie the Kiwi Dragon, I wanted to vote for you, but it appears foreign votes aren't accepted. Well, listen, it's the thought that counts. Thank you so much. I didn't know that, by the way, but thank you. Chaplain Fred, Dr. Richie, I'm a pastor in San Fernando Valley, California, and I would never expose my congregation to this nonsense like this, Pastor Shane. Well, it's because you actually give a damn about your congregation, okay? That's how that works. Stoner Wolf, Rayyvana on point, thumbs up, 100% agreed. Jax Drax says, so he was shot and paralyzed and then punished again so he couldn't receive his payment or cover his medical fees, so they basically killed him. And gave him a downgraded quality of life in the process. Okay, very sad. Let me take you to another sad story. A deaf Colorado man, the man can't hear, okay? Pulled over by the police, tased, assaulted, arrested. Let me take you to the video.
Zebra, Victor 17. Sit back in your car. Sit back in your car.
Run up on us like that? Excuse me? Who do you think you are? Stop.
Arms behind your back right now, or I'm gonna tase you.
Tase it.
Hands behind your back. Other hand behind your back. Now. Other hand. Now.
I'm sorry. Coffin Summers. Down.
Stay down.
What you want? Why just help me?
Don't run at us like that.
I'm down.
You're deaf?
Yeah. What do you want?
He didn't know they were following him. He did not run after them. He just got out of his car. The light was shining in his face and he could not see who they were. They attacked him. He still did not know they were the police because of the light shining in his eyes. And when they say, we're gonna tase you, it was less than 1 second that they tased the guy, okay? Now, we can say, okay, these cops need better training. Maybe there's some wiggle room here. I don't believe that, but there are some people that will look at this and try to give these aggressive cops who are out of control the benefit of the doubt. I do not, but some may. Now, I'm gonna take you to another video. This is after they know this young man had no criminal intent. He was not trying to be adversarial to the police. He was unable to see who they were. He did not know he was being pulled over, did not know they followed him into that parking lot. They know this now. They know he's hearing impaired. They know everything now, okay? Here's what they did. Here's what they did in the interrogation, basically. Here it is.
Do you understand why everything else happened?
No.
And at this point, after you are released from the hospital, you're going to jail.
I'm surprised. What am I going to jail for?
Resisting arrest and assault in the 2nd degree. And a stop sign violation.
Now that cop is a real piece of ish, okay? All right, let's put up a picture of this young brother. His name is Brady Mystic. He tried to communicate with the officers by saying no ears in an attempt to alert him that he was deaf. But they don't listen to people. They don't listen to anybody. So his communication, no pun intended, fell on deaf ears. The irony. He uses ASL only to communicate. He does not read lips, American Sign Language. And he is now suing. Good for him. He is now suing. So what was he charged with? Failure to stop at a stop sign, Class A traffic infraction, which is a civil and not criminal offense, by the way. Colorado law does not authorize arrest for the violation of a Class A traffic violation. So remember, the entire pretext of pulling him over was based on something that you could not even arrest for. You see how deep this gets now, okay? The lawsuit alleges the officers provided no warning or attempt to communicate before grabbing Mr. Mystic. But meanwhile, the Idaho Springs Police Department defended the officers, saying Mr. Mystic approached a clearly marked patrol car that had its emergency lights activated. The young man explained the lights blinded him, basically. He could not see who they were, okay? Rayyvana, what are your thoughts here?
I mean, this whole thing is just horrifically disgusting.
Yeah.
One, why the hell are you throwing to the ground a man who, at the very worst, rolled a stop sign? In what universe is that defensible behavior? And then to batter him up to the point where he needed to go to the hospital and then charge him with assault? That's beyond, there's no training that can prevent police officers from doing that. They're just trying to justify their own brutality in that moment. It was disgusting. The whole thing is just heinous.
I'm glad this young man has filed a lawsuit. The lawsuit is moving in the right direction. Let me put a picture up of one of the cops, the male cop that was involved. This is actually the male cop's mugshot. He was not arrested for what he did there. All charges were eventually dropped against Mr. Mystic, by the way. One of the two officers has a mugshot because this guy, whose name is Nick Hanning was fired for a 2021 incident with a 75-year-old Michael Clark. According to the narrative, this cop tased a 75-year-old man and injured him, roughed him up, and he was charged with 3rd-degree felony assault of an at-risk adult, which is a class 6 felony. But you already had warnings about who this man was as a police officer, all right? Let me take you to Des Moines. There's a cop, a police union boss, who sent unsolicited nudes to female cops. What a pervert. The former president of the Des Moines Police Union has been outed in a lawsuit for sending explicit, unsolicited photos of himself to female coworkers. This gets really deep. The lawsuit also wants to hold the entire police department accountable for sexual harassment, gender discrimination, and retaliation endured by the plaintiffs. So this was reported by the Des Moines Register. Tracy Rhodes, Jessica Bastian, Shannon Duffy, and Megan Bernhardt, and Sydney Donahue are all suing the city and its police department. They love their jobs and they love being police officers, said the woman's attorney. That's why they are bringing this lawsuit. The lawsuit filed Tuesday afternoon alleges the city and the department violated the women's civil rights and includes allegations of sexual harassment, gender discrimination, and retaliation spanning from the 1990s to as recently as last month. That's called culture, okay? Real culture. That's deep and embedded into that agency. Among the allegations, the lawsuit names the former union president. Numerous naked photos were sent to female employees by this former union president and police officer. Stu Barnes, who then allegedly asked for naked photos in return. Barnes was allowed to retire without consequence last year. Do you think it has something to do with him being a cop and the fact he was president of the local union? Yeah, this is why people don't like the police. Stuff like this, all right? Also listed in the allegations, the police officers were accused of sexual harassment, like Barnes, are allowed to retire with benefits rather than being held accountable. So when these things pop up, no accountability, nothing, okay? The suit also claims Barnes used official police resources to find and stalk women, and the police department was aware of the harassment, discrimination, and retaliation that takes place within the department, but has not taken steps to change the behavior. Instead, the department sweeps sexual harassment under the rug and has allowed it to continue. Let me show a picture of the police chief there. Okay. This is Dana Wingert. There he is. All right. Rayyvana, I mean, damn.
I mean, as much as I disagree with the choice of profession that these people have, no one deserves to be sexually harassed at work. And unfortunately, around 80% of women have experienced some form of workplace sexual harassment. It's pervasive across, all industries, all income levels. But does it surprise me that it would happen in a police office or police department when 40% of police officers self-report that they have domestic abuse in their own homes? No, it doesn't. Clearly, it's there's so many issues when it comes to policing, but the violence doesn't end at home even. So of course, it's going to continue in the workplace.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it's a reality. That's why the culture has to transform. We got to stop thinking of reform and think of replace. Okay. Let me take you to North Carolina. North Carolina man runs over Black Lives Matter protesters, damn near kills them, and will not face charges. Let me just take you directly to the video.
Have access to. That's about feelings of other people and really opens up the door to new ways.
These were peaceful protesters protesting the mistreatment of Black people in America. And this is what this man did to him, and the criminal justice system has let him go. Let me read to you everything he did. He runs over Black Lives Matter protesters. He flees the scene of the crime, jokes about it on social media. There's a manhunt for his arrest after the video. He turns himself in and then is told he committed no crime at all. Let's put up a picture of this person. His name is Jared Benjamin LaFleur. He will not be prosecuted for running his truck through a crowd of Black Lives Matter protesters last year. The Tennessee grand jury returned a no true bill, meaning no indictment. He claimed that he was trying to protect his family and he was afraid of these protesters. And obviously that's enough to run over people, to flee the scene, which is evidence of a guilty conscience, and be on the run from law enforcement. Rayyvana, the grand jury got this wrong in my opinion. But you know what can happen in those grand jury rooms is secret. We don't know how this case was presented.
Yeah, I mean, obviously there must have been some sort of evidence that wasn't introduced, because you can see that video. We saw it clear as day. One, there was no reason to be afraid of those protesters. They were just holding up signs on the side of the road, just fighting for equal rights for Black people in this country. There was also plenty of space for him to drive around them. There was plenty of he could have simply waited or asked them to move. There was in no universe any necessity for him to drive them over. And the fact that he laughed about it on social media afterwards and they still chose not to indict him is a disgusting miscarriage of justice.
Very much so. All right. It has been a pleasure having you break down news with me on the program. I want people to make sure they stick around, our Twitch crew, because you are coming up next. Thank you so much for joining us on Indisputable.
Thanks for having me, Doc.
Absolutely. We got more on the other side. Stick and stay.
So a lot of progressive office holders are doing something fun. I like fun. They're doing the last 2 years in 2 minutes. Okay, we're gonna try it here. First, I wanna let you guys know about the years before that. Hey, remember we started the Just Democrats here on the Young Turks. It was officially launched on our air, basically by you guys. And then we featured AOC, we featured Cori Bush, and Ro Khanna became the first ever Just Democrat incumbent, all on the Young Turks. Now, the last 2 years have been a spectacular follow-up to that. So let's put the 2 minutes on the clock and do this. Young Turks got to start back in 2002, and I think we've been an important part of the progressive movement ever since. What we mainly do is amplify the progressive voice and candidates out there, and I think we've done a pretty good job. Right now, we're currently #1 most engaged news politics network online, beating CNN, Fox News, and MSNBC, all of them. We're #1 in total minutes watched. That means not only the number of people watching, but how long they watch. We just crossed 20 million followers and 500 million monthly views. Now, why? That's because actually the country's progressive. It's 2/3 progressive. And you guys have allowed us to be your voice, and we're incredibly thankful for that. So what did we do with that voice? Well, let's look at 2019. We went all over the country talking to you guys and the candidates. So we were in Miami, we were in Detroit, we were in Houston, and we were in Iowa. In fact, we were all over Iowa. You guys were all over Iowa, and all of the candidates saw you guys. We had wonderful people speaking like the one and only Nina Turner. At our rallies, Bernie Sanders stopped by, Andrew Yang, Elizabeth Warren. We interviewed almost everyone on the campaign trail with the exception of Biden and Buttigieg. And we held them accountable. We even did a progressive economic pledge. And so many wonderful people signed on to that. Bernie Sanders, Warren, Marianne Williamson, AOC, the entire squad, Justice Democrats, and so many others. Now, on top of all that, we started a show called The Conversation where we featured so many progressive thinkers, writers, and candidates. And one of the candidates we featured in 2019 was Jamal Bowman. Here comes Jamal Bowman. Then we had an amazing 2020. We hired a climate reporter. Damage Report passed 500,000 subscribers. Young Turks passed 5 million subscribers. We're getting the message out to more and more people. Bernie Sanders comes on in the heat of the primary. He comes on after the election to say what we're going to do for the future. And then Marie Newman wins. Jamal Bowman wins. Cori Bush wins. And then just when you thought it couldn't get any better, here comes Nina Turner. Hello, somebody. And she's running for Congress and she comes on the Young Turks first. On election week, we had nearly 2 million hours of viewing. We're #1 destination for progressives. You made all that happen. This is amazing. And thank you for those 2 years. What, I went past 2 minutes? Of course!
Viewers had asked for an interview with the TYT Lizard. Mr. Lizard. Oh, you changed colors today. Nice. I don't even know how you feel about us. Do you even like us?
Well, you guys made me this awesome house, so I'm kind of in your debt. I was found outside on the street, and you gave me a home. Granted, it was a really crappy home for a while, but then through the power of fundraising, I became a person who has a multi-level Trump-style mansion.
You do. By the way, you've never looked better, man. Normally, you're just green or just brown, but today you're in mid-lizard, right?
I'm not very smart. I'm a lizard, so I don't know how the science works. I guess this is just my mood. It's not every day that thresholds like this are broken. I'm just so excited. I can't contain my pigmentation.
And now you're showing it off.
Yep.
Yeah, I've never seen the lizard like this before.
right, welcome back. We got the bullpen next. Before I go to the bullpen, I want to remind you that the mugs are here for Indisputable. I think we got a great graphic for those. ShopTYT.com, ShopTYT.com. This mug has a print on two sides with my daily closing statement. Take care of yourself, take care of each other, take care of the planet. Remember, the truth is always indisputable. Would love for you to get those mugs. All right. Also, Atlanta Magazine nominated, because of this show and this remarkable audience, nominated me for Best TV Anchor. You can vote. You can vote on that. TYT, we can bring this home, okay? We can bring it home. If we get this one, it will be the first award for Indisputable. We've been here for a few months. It may be time to start collecting, okay? I appreciate you in advance. Real simple to do. All you gotta do is go to tyt.com/Rashad, tyt.com/RASHAD. I need all of my TYT crew. Let's get on it. You can vote once a day, all right? Once you go there, type in Rashad Richey in the bar, type it in. It's all good, hit submit. It stops, voting stops October 11th, okay? All right, let me read some of these comments. I can't get to all of them, we'll get to as many as I can. Mickey C, the Silver-Haired Dragon says, yet another horrible abuse by cop story. Any one of us would feel helpless in that situation. I can't imagine, right? The guy who's deaf, but a deaf person is even more so. I can't imagine his confusion and mental anguish in that situation, disgusting. And then when the other cop says, oh, well, you're still going to jail. That did it for me, okay? Faith, I am horrified at every story today. I'm always horrified and I want to turn away, but I know that I need to know what's happening, and you do. You do need to know what's happening. Thank you for presenting these difficult and upsetting stories, for shining a light on these crimes and the people that are suffering and even dying as a result. Thank you. YouTube super chat. King T, these types of stories make me mad as hell. They claim Dontrell Stephens was a drug dealer, but how could the officer have known in that brief encounter? So the officer is psychic and I'm white Jesus. Mike V, don't forget conservatives in 7 states proposed bills after George Floyd death to use their vehicles legally to run down protesters. That's right. Governor DeSantis was one of them. So let me get this straight. Critical race theory, which isn't even taught in K through 12 education, that's bad. But running over protesters, good. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the bullpen. In the bullpen today, I got Joshua Shin from Young Voices, commentator, also holds an MA in economics and undergraduate degrees in sociology and psychology. Should be interesting. We're going to chop it up about cancel culture. Joshua, good day, brother, welcome.
Yeah, pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. I don't want to presume what you know or believe about cancel culture, so if you would, give us your sentiment as it relates to the topic.
Yeah, of course. I'd like to first state that I'm not coming at this from a partisan perspective. I've been canceled both from the right on evolution in high school and on the left on meritocracy in my sociology program. Okay. So I would like to approach, but I do believe that cancel culture is a net negative for 2 reasons. First off, I think that cancel culture is easy and therefore leaves people unprepared for real activism and real difficult discussions. And 2, I think it creates a culture of silence and shaming that enables gatekeepers and reduces actual debate and discussion. So to start on the first point, this is an analogy I'm using for the first time here, but I think that cancel culture is very similar to video games and dangerous in the same way, in the sense that both of them provide a very simple problem with a clear solution. So people get addicted to doing something, right? But that doesn't reflect the real world in a way that activism, organizing, etc. does. The sense of achievement by psychologists, this is gonna get a little technical, but it's called the triumph circuit in the brain, where the feeling of getting something done is very powerful, and that becomes addicting and kind of cathartic, and I think that's dangerous for discourse.
Okay, so let me ask you to define the variable. What is cancel culture in your interpretation?
Okay, I believe that cancel culture has to do with shaming, but it's a little different. I think that using social pressure to change behavior is very normal and very human. What sets cancel culture apart is the appeal to the mob and appeal to institutions. So it feels like there's a much larger force than having a one-on-one conversation with a neighbor or a friend. I think that, I also believe that government censorship gets lumped in with cancel culture, and those are both problematic, but for different reasons. Cancel culture as a public shaming is more about mob violence and the argument against democracy, where things become heated and are defined in the moment. Whereas government censorship is defined by an opposition to tyranny. So I think that what makes cancel culture different than talking to a friend or government censorship is that appeal to the masses. And I think that's enabled by social media nowadays.
Okay, I think that there is an overuse at times of cancel culture. I think sometimes there's a knee-jerk reaction, but that's really part of sociology. That's part of humanity, brother. That's not something that's new in the culture. We have all had what we know as social normalities. You hold an undergraduate degree in sociology, you understand social norming, social normalities, and the grounded theory, and how those grounded theories work, and how we've always had these constructs within our human existence. So none of these are significantly new in any way. Definitely the platforms are different because of how we have been able to utilize social media, 24-hour news cycle. The opportunity for us to engage people at record speed has promoted it a little more, but it's definitely not different. So let me go to, let's say, people that should be canceled. Do you agree that there are some people in the culture that should be socially and publicly shamed?
I think that there is a case for it, but what the left currently overlooks as they cancel people nowadays, and what the right mistook in the past when I was canceled, is that it requires a certain amount of privilege and having won the culture wars to be able to cancel someone. So what I'm afraid of is that right now, the people who cancel use that as an excuse not to learn the best arguments, and instead use it to try to, as a quick way out, right? The people who, this is the same thing that I equate with activism and showing up to a BLM rally versus going to a school board meeting. Those are two different things, but I would define one as activism because it applies pressure to a formal system, as opposed to cancel culture, which doesn't and generally just makes a lot of noise.
Let me get clarity. Are you calling the protest of Black Lives Matter an engagement in cancel culture, but the school board engagements, you would call that activism?
Correct. And
that's ridiculous.
Well, no, specifically not cancel culture. Let me take that back. So BLM is not about cancel culture, but it is a form of demonstration. However, in my area, I live in Fairfax, Virginia, which is just outside DC. I went to the gun store the same weekend as the BLM march. And I can tell you that the line at the gun store was more diverse than the march in town. Just because these federal workers that can't earn overtime are showing up at a BLM rally, for me, that is an activism in the same sense that, again, showing up to a school board to protest CRT is. CRT has its own problems with cancel culture too, right? The right is trying to cancel and ban CRT.
Well, brother, you're making the point I was about to make. So when we're talking about school boards, and allow me to opine for a moment because I've allowed you to put out a lot of what you believe. When we're talking about cancel culture, I don't think you get to have it both ways. What you see happening at school board meetings is, in fact, not de facto, but in fact, cancel culture. Because literally what they're saying at these school board meetings is that not only are we going to cancel you, we are willing to fight you physically, we are willing to vote you out politically, and we're also willing to break the law statutorily. That is your premise of cancel culture. And they are calling individuals who make common sense legislative decisions, such as mask mandates or mask protocols, they're doing things like calling them Nazis, etc. Once again, a derivative of cancel culture. So I don't see how you can make a comparative analysis and suggest and flat out even say that what's happening at school board is activism and what's happening with Black Lives Matter is cancel culture. It's the exact opposite, brother. When you go to a Black Lives Matter protest, they're talking about inclusion. They're talking about coalition development. They're talking about social dynamics that need to progress in the United States of America. You go to one of those school board meetings that you just brought up, they're talking about killing people, they're talking about fighting people, and they're talking about canceling individuals from leadership roles. So tell me, how in the world, brother, do you come to a conclusion that parents at a school board meeting engaging in that kind of criminal activity are part of activism and advocacy, but Black Lives Matter, those protesters are not?
Okay, yeah, so there's a couple things there. First off, there are aspects of showing up to a school board meeting, I think, that are not acceptable. Threatening violence is not acceptable, but on the other hand, I do believe that it is activism to work and try to get someone out of office voting, because that, again, that's a more formal mechanism than public shaming, and something that the activists and citizens have more.
I'm sorry, I got to interrupt, brother. I'm a student of history. What is wrong with public shaming? And let me provide some context for you, because you have already admitted on my show that you understand the value of how social behavior can be shaped by what people are ashamed to do. You already know the value of that. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. understood the value of that. And that's why he, through his strategy, said he's going to places that have the most adversarial white supremacists. And he's going to make sure the media is there to shock the soul of America. He wasn't talking about Black America, he was talking about white America. Black America was well aware of the discrimination and the tactics used against them. So he used shaming and dynamics of social shaming and cancel culture, if you want to call it that, in order to publicly shame others. Tell me what's wrong with the methodology of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.
I'm not objecting to the methodology per se. I'm pointing out the fact that the ability to cancel, again, comes with, in some part, institutional leverage and having won the culture wars. This is why you don't see it. This is why, for example, I object to the own the libs type of conservatives, because at the end of the day, we don't really have the institutional power to leverage those into change the way that the left does now. What I am warning against is that cancel culture is a symptom and a sign that there is some privilege there. And this is why progressive activists feel some level of discomfort that maybe cancel culture has gone too far.
Now you say you were canceled, brother.
Yes.
Tell me your experience. What makes you canceled? How did you get canceled?
Okay, both of my examples actually are from before social media, so I hope this can be something that the listeners can learn from. On the right, in the early 2000s, there was a debate over whether or not to teach evolution in schools alongside intelligent design. My biology teacher was targeted. He was not white, he was Indian, Dr. Singh. Someone snuck into his classroom and wrote, "You're going to hell," on his whiteboards in permanent marker. I wrote an op-ed to the paper, a letter to the editor, defending the teaching of evolution. And multiple people I showed it to discouraged me. They said, "That's not a good idea. You're not gonna like the attention. That sounds like a personal attack." Everyone except the editor, the teacher of that class, of the newspaper class. She encouraged me, but at the end of the day, I withdrew it. That's a type of informal shaming that discouraged discussion. I'm attacking cancel culture not because shaming is bad or not necessary, right? I play video games. I know a lot of people personally that deserve to be shamed in that subculture, but it's more, does it help discussion and help progress, right? On the right, on the left, in my sociology classes, my parents are small business owners, like a lot of Korean Americans are. And defending small business, defending meritocracy also got a lot of pushback because they found it very difficult to gel with their idea of Marxist economic theory. Not the only theory, yeah, but those are my experiences.
Brother, come on, man. First of all, for it to be cultural, it has to be socially normative. You know that's the root definition of culture. What you just described is argumentation, debate, and disagreement. You've described pushback. You have not described cancel culture here.
Well, I define that as my lived experience, right? So the discomfort that I experienced from multiple people on the left and the right were sufficient to get me to shut up in terms of the newspaper.
But you decided to do that. But I would submit to you that I get way more hate mail. People email me, call me the N-word, tagged on social media, all kind of stuff, right? That happens every day. Every single day of my life, I have people that do that because of my stance as it relates to social issues, policies, etc. I also know that they're not the majority. They're not part of the social norm. Those individuals are not the culture. It's not a culture cancel or cancel culture dynamic. It's the push and pull. It's the entanglement of human existence. It's the fight of education, enlightenment that we all must engage in. People are going to disagree with you, brother. Some people are going to just flat out not like you without reason or cause. And there are some people who are willing to hold on to an old lie than accept a new truth, regardless of what you bring to their doorstep. So what you're describing to me more so fits with a social dynamic that's simply a part of humanity rather than cancel culture.
So my pushback to that is that it has amplified to the point that the silence is palpable, and that culture of being uncomfortable saying what you want to say empowers the loudest people with the most capital, social capital, political capital, or money, right? They're the ones that take charge of the discussion because the rest of us don't feel comfortable speaking out. All right. I think I think that's an impact of cancel culture.
Okay.
And that's something I will point to that is a personal experience that translates to a macro.
Right. Problem. What if the person wants to say something racist publicly? You see, here's what happens, brother. When you submit commentary publicly, here's what you should expect. Either public ridicule or public praise. That's what happens. You don't get to submit things publicly, say things on the record, be bold about your position, your political stance, and then say, oh, no, but don't give me any pushback. Don't disagree with me. Don't have a vigorous or rigorous debate with me about it because now you're canceling me. No, if you say something that's racist, hey, you have the right, the freedom to say it, but you will have significant cultural pushback because we are transforming, hopefully better as a nation, right? Those things, in my opinion, should be shamed. You don't agree?
I do agree, but what I criticize is that the people being targeted or hurt by racist comments aren't necessarily the ones that get to participate or decide what is racist and what is not. For example, Washington, D.C. is 30 minutes away. They recently had to rename their football team because Redskin was racist, even though polling showed that 9 out of 10 Native Americans didn't think it was racist. And in fact, a tribe had lobbied to replace that logo from the old one, which was an R, to the picture of the Indian chief. This is an example of how activism gets taken out of the hands of the people that are trying to be defended and be taken care of. And that's a dynamic that I think is dangerous.
You're misguided on that study. The survey model that they used for that study included individuals that were part Native or subscribed to be part Native American. And you got this composite of a very skewed conclusion that the majority of them were not offended. However, full-blooded Native Americans, that number flipped the other way and they were severely offended. 9 out of 10 were severely offended, 90% plus. So brother, when you come with these stats, I'm a well-read guy, very familiar with the study. and you represent one angle of that study where basically a lot of individuals that personally identified as white with some level of Native American in them were able to participate in that survey. And then you spew that survey as if, Native Americans weren't even offended by this, when the truth is, you know that full-blooded Native Americans were.
I also do know that in a very recent study on political correctness, the demographic that was most likely to disapprove and believe that political correctness was a problem was Native Americans at 89%. Whites were lower at 79%, and blacks weren't much lower in that at 75%. I understand, to head off the question, that political correctness is not necessarily cancel culture. However, it is one of the levers that people use to cancel someone, and it's not popular, right? So cancel culture, there is nothing wrong in itself of someone using social pressure to change behavior. What is ignored and what I would like to bring attention to is that the people who get to participate in that discussion are not necessarily the ones that benefit from it.
Yeah, I got you on that. But I will say, let's say if I'm having a discussion about equity in America and race relations, I don't want a member of the KKK in that discussion. I don't give a damn what he has to say. That's not what I would not invite them. I would kick them out of whatever room I'm in. I would not be in their presence to have that kind of legitimate discussion in America, because to me, they are canceled, and they should always be canceled anytime they try to seek legitimacy through a platform or social exchange. How am I wrong for that?
I don't think that's wrong per se. I just think that there are certain opportunities that we miss out on when we aren't willing to engage the other side. An example is immigration under Trump. There were at some point 6 or 7 bills in the House that were looking to reform immigration, but because of, in part, Trump's attitude, but also Democrats' choice to not engage with goodwill and people who really want to change the system, people who were never at the table for immigration discussions were for the first time. And because of cancel culture, because of the bad optics of that, people avoided it, and we've passed the buck onto this administration, which in most people will agree is really butchering the situation on the border. But yeah, so I do agree, and that discussion is very important, for sure.
All right, on that, brother, my producers are telling me to wrap it up. It's been a fun discussion, man. I have not considered some of the things you have presented, but I definitely still believe that utilizing social influence as well as protest in order to publicly shame negative racist behavior is a tool in the toolbox. Now, can that tool be utilized incorrectly? Of course, brother, any tool can be perverted. But I appreciate you being on Indisputable. Thank you, man, it's been fun.
Yeah, no, thank you very much thank you for having me.
Absolutely. All right, listen, don't forget Reactions with Rayyvana next. And remember, take care of yourself, take care of each other, take care of the planet. Remember, the truth is always indisputable.